Third story. The Lost Marriage Part 1. Conversation by the pool. The palms rustled in the wind, and in that whisper was the promise of eternal summer, the kind sold in glossy magazines, one that never ends if you have enough money. Alex Dobrodrug lounged in a deck chair by the pool, sipping a non-alcoholic mojito and idly watching the hotel guests. He had over $200,000, 10 days of legitimate vacation, and a firm intention to do absolutely nothing. He had chosen the hotel deliberately. It was the sort of place where people stayed for whom economy existed only in dictionaries, as an archaism. Old money, new money, very old money, all mingled here in a whimsical cocktail of expensive clothes, unobtrusive service, and hushed conversations. Waiters wore gloves, guests spoke so softly you had to strain to hear, and every other dialogue sounded like a script for a film about the rich and famous. Alex checked in under his real name. After all, no one vetted guests who just wanted to relax. He grew a light stubble, bought a couple of linen suits, and felt almost at home among these people. Almost, because the truly at home never feel that way. They simply exist. On the third day of his vacation, what always happens when you try to do nothing occurred. Alex was just about to dive into the pool to wash off the sticky sweat of the southern sun when he overheard a conversation. He wasn't eavesdropping. The neighboring deck chairs were separated only by a hedge of flowering bushes, and the woman spoke loudly enough to be heard not just by her companions, but probably by the seagulls at the far end of the beach. "I'm telling him. Richard, either you fire that secretary of yours, or I'm going to my mother's," and he says. "Darling, she's been working with me for 20 years, Karen. Can you imagine? I've been with him for 5, and she's been there 20. And who, pray tell, is more important?" "You are, of course," replied the second voice, lazy and slightly mocking. "But you know men. They're like dogs. They get attached to old slippers and don't want to change them, even if they're full of holes." "My mother-in-law is an old slipper too," interjected the third voice, the youngest and most resonant. "Imagine, she showed up at my house yesterday uninvited and started rearranging the furniture in the living room. I nearly had a heart attack. I say, 'Marilyn, this is my home,' and she, 'Darling, this is my son's home, and you're just—' 'Well, you know, just a temporary fixture,' snorted the first. Classic. "Listen, girls, let's go see that. What's his name? The one who performs in the lounge bar on Tuesdays. I heard he reads minds amazingly." "That's not mind reading, it's cold reading," said the second, the one who'd compared secretaries to slippers. "I went to a session like that last year. He told me I'd had a difficult divorce and needed to let go of the past. $2,000 for what he read on my face. Any taxi driver would say it cheaper." "Jessica, you always ruin everything with your skepticism," the first pouted. "Sometimes you just want a bit of magic. Even if it's fake. Then buy yourself an inflatable unicorn," Jessica smirked. "Cheaper and more useful." Alex smiled into his mojito. He definitely liked Jessica. Of the three, she was the only one keeping a level head in this paradise for idle millionairesses. He glanced briefly through the hibiscus branches. 3 women in expensive swimsuits, 3 deck chairs with cocktails, 3 pairs of sunglasses from Prada and Gucci. A typical day for typical rich wives of typical rich husbands who earned enough so their wives could discuss secretaries and mothers-in-law by the pool instead of sitting in an office. He was about to turn away and finally dive into the pool when the conversation took an unexpected turn. "Have you heard about Sarah?" the young one asked, lowering her voice to a conspiratorial whisper that carried even better than normal speech. "The one in the suite on the 5th floor? The one whose husband disappeared?" The first perked up. "Of course we've heard. The whole hotel's talking about it. He left on a business trip a week ago and hasn't returned. The police are looking, but nothing yet." And I heard, the young one continued mysteriously, that he didn't disappear. He ran off. With a mistress. And took all the money. Jessica objected. Come on. They have so much money that running off with a mistress would be like trading a Rolls-Royce for a Honda, no point. And I heard another version, the first chimed in. That he was killed. By business rivals. He traded in something, weapons or drugs, I didn't pry. Linda, you always dramatize everything, Jessica sighed. The man just went on business and got delayed. Sarah told me herself he often does that. His business is all over the country. When was that? Asked the young one. The day before yesterday. We met in the spa, got talking. She's holding up well, but you can tell she's worried. Red eyes, though she tries to smile. Alex pricked up his ears. Not because he planned to get involved, he was on vacation, damn it, but because the psychologist in him never slept. The story sounded banal. Rich husband, sudden disappearance, wife alone in the hotel. Endless possibilities, from real crime to the husband's simple desire for a new life. But there was something in Jessica's voice when she spoke of Sarah. A note Alex couldn't identify. Sympathy? Yes. But something else. Caution? Doubt? Are you close with her? He asked, surprising even himself by interrupting. Silence fell instantly beyond the hedge. Alex mentally cursed himself, idiot, butting in where he wasn't asked. Now he'd have to explain. Sorry, ladies, he said louder, sitting up in his chair. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but you were speaking rather energetically. And I'm a psychologist. Professional habit, I can't ignore an interesting story. A pause. Then the hibiscus branches parted, revealing a head in a wide-brimmed straw hat. The woman named Jessica looked at him curiously. You're a psychologist? For real? Unfortunately, yes, Alex smiled. But I'm on vacation. I promise not to diagnose anyone here. I just heard familiar intonations. What intonations? Jessica lifted her glasses, and Alex saw intelligent, slightly mocking eyes. About 45, well-groomed but without the frozen look of plastic surgery, with a lively face and clearly a sharp tongue. The intonations of someone talking about a friend but thinking of something else, Alex said. You mentioned Sarah, and there was something in your voice. I'm not sure I can explain. But it seemed you know more than you're saying. Jessica blinked. Then, to Alex's surprise, she laughed. You really are a psychologist, she said. All right, come out of your trench and join us. We've been gossiping for an hour anyway, here's some intellectual variety. A minute later, Alex sat beside their chairs, sipping his mojito and getting acquainted. Linda, the one advising her husband to fire the secretary, turned out to own a chain of fashion salons, temporarily left to managers to save her marriage. The young one was Christy, 28, married to a financier twice her age who, by her account, still couldn't tell Prada from Prada line. And Jessica. Jessica was a divorce lawyer. That explained a lot. Sarah Morgan, Jessica said as the waiter brought Alex a fresh drink. Her husband, Robert Morgan, vanished 8 days ago. Left on business and disappeared. Their business is big, chain of car dealerships. Worth around $300 million. Police got involved right away, but nothing so far. Are you helping her? As a lawyer? Alex asked. No. Jessica hesitated. We're just acquaintances from the hotel. I've been here 3 weeks, divorcing my third husband. Sarah came with her husband for the weekend, he left and didn't return. We chatted by chance in the spa, and I don't know. There's something about her. Vulnerable. Though she's clearly not the vulnerable type. Do you think she's lying? Alex asked bluntly. Linda and Christy gasped in unison. Jessica looked at Alex with fresh interest. Why do you think that? Because you're a lawyer, Alex shrugged. It's your job to spot lies from a mile away. And if you say something about her bothers you, then it does. You just can't articulate it yet. Jessica was silent for a long time, sipping her cocktail. Linda and Christy exchanged glances, clearly disappointed the conversation had veered off. They'd expected light gossip, not psychoanalysis. You know, Jessica said at last, I've seen many women in her situation. Those whose husbands vanished. Whose husbands died. Whose husbands ran off with mistresses. They all share one thing, shock. Real, physical shock. Sarah doesn't have that shock. She's upset, yes. She cries. But those aren't tears of loss. They're. I don't know. Tears of fear? Fear of what? That the truth will come out, Jessica said quietly. I think she knows where her husband is. Or what happened to him. And she's afraid it'll be discovered. Whoa, Christy breathed. You think she killed him? I don't think anything, Jessica cut her off. I'm just a lawyer who sees inconsistencies. What do you think, doctor? The doctor carried a light mockery, but Alex caught genuine interest in it. I think, he said slowly, that if a woman fears not the loss of her husband but the truth emerging, she has something to hide. The question is what? And mainly, does she want that hidden thing to stay hidden, or is she looking for a way to tell it all but fears the consequences? Complicated, Linda grimaced. Can you say it simpler? Sure, Alex smiled. Simpler. Sarah's like a time bomb now. Either she'll explode herself or blow someone up. And if she has any conscience, she's seeking someone to help defuse it without casualties. And you think that someone is you? Jessica narrowed her eyes. I think, Alex finished his mojito and stood, that if your friend wants to talk to someone who won't judge her and won't run to the police, let her know. There's a psychologist on vacation in the hotel who loves complex puzzles. Alex Dobrodrug. I'm in chair 27 in the mornings and at the bar in the evenings. Now, excuse me, 3 days of idleness are catching up, and my body craves the ocean. He smiled, nodded, and headed to the beach, leaving the 3 women staring after him. He's weird, said Christy. He's interesting, Jessica corrected. Very interesting. Part 2. The woman who doesn't cry. Alex didn't expect Sarah Morgan to appear so quickly. That same evening, he sat in the hotel's lounge bar, sipping whiskey and pretending to read some economic analysis on his tablet. In reality, he was observing. Observation was his second nature, and even on vacation, he couldn't switch off that mechanism. The bar was filled with the usual evening crowd. Middle-aged couples discussing the day, a few businessmen with laptops, a group of young people clearly celebrating someone's engagement. And a woman at the table by the window, alone, with a glass of white wine she wasn't drinking. Alex recognized her immediately, though he'd never seen her before. 35 to 37, dark hair pulled into a tight bun, perfect makeup, perfect posture, perfect black dress, everything about her was perfect. And everything about her screamed that she was about to fall apart if someone didn't come over and tell her everything would be okay. Sarah Morgan. She stared out the window at the dark ocean, and Alex saw her hand trembling as it gripped the glass. Not from cold, from tension. She was taut as a string, ready to snap at the slightest touch. Alex hesitated for exactly 3 seconds. Then he stood, took his whiskey, and approached her table. Excuse me, he said softly. All the other tables are taken, and I hate drinking alone. Do you mind if I join you? She lifted her eyes to him. Dark brown, almost black, with red veins from lack of sleep or tears. Or both. There are plenty of free tables, she said evenly. Her voice was low, beautiful, with a slight huskiness. Taken, Alex corrected with a smile. By people who don't interest me. You look like someone I could talk to about something besides the weather and the stock market. She looked at him for a long time, appraisingly. Then she nodded faintly. Sit. But I warn you. I'm poor company today. Today? Alex echoed, settling opposite her. Are you better on other days? She didn't reply. She just stared out the window again. Alex stayed silent. It was his main tool, the ability to be quiet in a way that made the other person start talking to fill the silence. And it worked. Do you know who I am? She asked suddenly, without turning her head. Sarah Morgan, Alex replied calmly. The one whose husband disappeared. She flinched and turned sharply to him. How? The whole hotel is talking about it. Alex shrugged. I'm not into gossip, but it's hard to avoid. Besides, this afternoon I spoke with your acquaintance, Jessica. Jessica. Sarah winced, not angrily, but wearily. She's good. Too good. She keeps trying to help me, and I don't know if I want help. Why? Sarah looked at him suspiciously. Do you always ask such direct questions? Only when I sense someone is tired of hints and half-truths. Alex sipped his whiskey. You look like you need someone to say it straight. No sentiment, no sympathy, no everything will be fine, just facts. Am I wrong? Sarah was silent for a long time. So long that Alex thought she would stand and leave. But she didn't. I don't know where my husband is, she said at last. That's the truth. But I know why he disappeared. And why? Because I told him I was filing for divorce. There it was. Alex set his glass on the table and looked at her more closely. She didn't look away. Her gaze held a challenge, a test of strength. When did you tell him? The day before he left. We argued. Badly. I said I was tired of his affairs, his constant busyness, of being just a decoration to him. He got angry at first, yelled, then suddenly went quiet and said, Fine. I'll go on this business trip, and when I return, we'll sort it all out, and he left. And didn't come back. Do you think he ran away? I think. Sarah faltered, and for the first time in the conversation, her voice trembled. I think he might have done something to himself. He'd been depressed lately. I didn't notice, but now I realize, he was on the edge. And instead of helping, I made a scene. And now you blame yourself. Wouldn't you? Alex paused. I would, he said honestly. But I'd also ask myself. If he was depressed, why was the only person who noticed it his wife, the one he was arguing with? Where were his friends, his partners, his secretary, for that matter? Sarah flinched, and Alex knew he'd hit the mark. You know about the secretary? She asked quietly. I only know what your husband told me. Alex paused, letting the phrase hang in the air. Kidding. I know nothing. But your reaction says she exists. She exists, Sarah said with a bitter smile. For 10 years now. Young, beautiful, devoted. I thought there was nothing between them. Robert swore there wasn't. And now? Now I don't know what to believe. Maybe he ran off with her. Maybe they'd been planning it. Maybe I'm just a fool who noticed nothing for 10 years. Or you just trusted the person you loved, Alex said gently. That's not foolishness. That's normal. Normal? Sarah laughed, and tears echoed in her laughter. You know what the police told me? They said, Mrs. Morgan, your husband withdrew $200,000 in cash from the bank the day before he left. Did you know about that? I didn't. I know nothing about his finances, his business, his plans. I was just the wife. A pretty doll at receptions. And now you feel betrayed. I feel empty, Sarah said. Empty and angry. At him, at myself, at the whole world. And the worst part, I can't even cry properly. Everything inside has dried up. Alex looked at her and saw what Jessica had called vulnerable. This woman was on the brink. Not of a nervous breakdown, those happen to hysterics who love drama. This was something else. A deep, quiet well of despair she feared to peer into, knowing if she did, she'd fall in and never climb out. I can help you, Alex said. Not find your husband, that's not my specialty. But I can help you deal with what's happening inside you. So when he turns up, alive or whatever, you can face reality head-on, without falling apart. Sarah looked at him with a long, probing gaze. You're a psychologist? Jessica said you're a psychologist. Yes. And I'm on vacation. But for you, I'll make an exception. Why? Alex thought. Good question. Why was he getting involved in another story when he should be resting? The answer came slowly, but when it did, he knew it was true. Because I also know what it's like to have no strength to cry when you need to, he said. And because you didn't ask for help. You just sat here waiting for someone to approach. And I hate when people wait in vain. Sarah was silent for a long time. Then she nodded once, briefly. Fine, but I warn you, I'm a complicated case. That's perfect, Alex smiled. I love complicated cases. Simple ones are boring to solve. Part 3. Therapy for 3. The next 3 days Alex spent in a strange routine. Mornings on the beach, pretending to relax, afternoons meeting Sarah in the lounge bar or hotel lobby, evenings in reflection and journal entries. He took no money from her, made no plans, attempted no manipulation. He simply listened. And occasionally asked questions. Sarah talked about her life before marriage. She'd been an architect, quite successful, designing private cottages for wealthy clients. About meeting Daniel, he'd commissioned a lakeside cottage project from her, and something sparked between them that she took for love. About 10 years of marriage, happy at first, then increasingly empty. About how she gradually stopped working because the wife of such a man shouldn't work, it looks odd. About how she lost herself. I don't even remember the last time I did something for myself, she said. Not as Mrs. Morgan, but just as Sarah. I went to the cosmetologist to look good for him. I bought clothes to please him. I hosted receptions to support his business connections. And where was I in all that? And where were you? Alex echoed. I don't know. Lost somewhere along the way. On the 4th day of their talks, a new character appeared in the hotel. Alex was sitting in the lobby with Sarah when a woman entered the doors. Tall, striking, about 28, with long blonde hair and a perfect figure, hugged by a business suit worth more than an average American's annual salary. She moved like a predator, confidently, gracefully, scanning the space for prey. And prey was found. Sarah! The woman exclaimed, heading to their table. My God, Sarah, I'm so glad you're here. I flew in as soon as I heard. Are you okay? Sarah paled. Alex physically felt every muscle in her body tense. Amanda, she said in an icy tone. What are you doing here? I came to help. Amanda threw up her hands. Daniel's disappeared, the police are doing nothing, I couldn't just sit idle. I know his business better than anyone. I need to be here. You were his secretary, Sarah cut her off. Not his wife. Not his partner. Secretary. And your help isn't needed. Amanda smiled, the smile of a woman who knows she has aces up her sleeve. Sarah, darling, I understand your feelings. Really. But now's not the time for jealousy. Now we need to find Daniel. And for that, we need information only I know. Information? Sarah narrowed her eyes. What information? Amanda glanced around, then leaned in and lowered her voice to a theatrical whisper. Not here. Too many ears. Can we talk in private? Alex watched the scene silently, piecing together the picture in his mind. Amanda wasn't just a secretary. She was a woman clearly with designs on Daniel, and perhaps not only him. Her appearance at the hotel a week after her boss's disappearance was too convenient, too staged. She obviously knew something. Or was hiding something. I'm not going anywhere with you, Sarah said firmly. If you want to talk, talk here. This is my friend, Alex. He can be trusted. Amanda gave Alex a quick appraising look. He smiled politely, playing the harmless acquaintance. Fine, Amanda conceded, sitting at the table uninvited. As you wish. But I warn you. What I'm about to say, you won't like. I already don't, Sarah muttered. Speak. Daniel was going to leave you, Amanda blurted. He told me so. Said he was tired, that you didn't understand him, that the marriage was over. He planned to start a new life. Sarah was silent. Her face remained impassive, but Alex saw her knuckles whiten as she gripped the chair arm. And who was he planning to start this new life with? Alex asked calmly. You? Amanda flushed. That's none of your business. You came here and made it my business, Alex countered. So answer. Were you his mistress? It's not that simple, Amanda faltered. We had a relationship, yes. But not like you think. We were partners. He trusted me. He told me things he told no one else. Like what? Like that he had business problems. Amanda lowered her voice to a whisper. Serious problems. He owed a large sum to some people. Not banks, people. Bad people. Sarah flinched. What people? What are you talking about? The kind you don't want to owe, Amanda said meaningfully. I don't know the details. But I know in recent months he was very tense, constantly on the phone, meeting strange types. I think they might have killed him. Silence hung in the air, heavy and sticky as summer heat. And you're saying this now? Alex asked. Why not go to the police? The police. Amanda hesitated. The police wouldn't listen to me. Said they had no grounds to suspect foul play. And I'm scared. Scared those people will come after me or Sarah. I want to warn you. Or you want to deflect suspicion from yourself, Alex said calmly. Amanda jumped up. How dare you? I flew here, risking myself, to help, and you. Sit down, Alex cut her off. His voice was quiet, but it held steel notes he hadn't expected from himself. Sit and listen. You came with a story that's convenient exactly as far as a lie is. Daniel disappeared. You were his mistress. You knew about his problems. You didn't go to the police. And now you're here, telling the widow about bad people. If you were really scared, you'd be hiding and praying they don't find you. But instead, you're sticking your neck out. Why? Amanda opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. Her beautiful face reflected a gamut of emotions, from anger to fear. Because, she said and faltered. Because you know where he is, Alex finished for her. Or what happened to him. And you're afraid it'll come out. That's why you're here, to control the situation. To know what Sarah knows. To steer the investigation your way. That's not true. Amanda cried, but her voice lacked conviction. Then tell me right now, looking me in the eye. You don't know where Daniel Morgan is. You don't know if he's alive or dead. You had nothing to do with his disappearance. Amanda stared at him. Her eyes darted, seeking an escape, salvation, a loophole. And found none. One eye. Amanda? A voice came from behind. They all turned. A man stood in the lobby. Tall, graying, in an expensive suit, with the face of someone used to giving orders. He looked at Amanda with an expression that told Alex immediately. This wasn't just an acquaintance. Reed, Amanda breathed. You're here. I came for you, the man said, approaching. Enough playing detective. Let's go home. Sarah watched the scene with growing bewilderment. Excuse me, she said. And who are you? The man shifted his gaze to her, and something like sympathy flickered in his eyes. I'm Amanda's husband, he said. Reed Parker. And I apologize for my wife's behavior. She shouldn't have interfered. Your husband? Sarah looked at Amanda. You're married? Amanda stood pale as chalk and silent. For 10 years now, Reed said. Amanda, get in the car. We'll talk later. Amanda, slumped, trudged to the exit. Reed lingered a second, looking at Sarah. Mrs. Morgan, I'm very sorry it came to this. My wife had an affair with your husband. I knew about it. We were trying to get through it. Obviously, it didn't work. But she had nothing to do with his disappearance. I can guarantee that. How are you so sure? Alex asked. Reed smirked. Because she's been with me the last 3 days. I came specifically to pull her out of this mess. We were on a getaway, together. I can provide any proof. He left, leaving Sarah and Alex in complete silence. Well, Sarah said after a long pause. She was married? And sleeping with my husband? And her husband knew? This is some madhouse. This is life, Alex noted philosophically. In which your husband seems to have been quite the character. Sarah covered her face with her hands. I knew nothing about him, she whispered. 10 years of marriage, and I knew nothing. It's not your fault, Alex said gently. People show us only what they want. Especially people like Daniel. But now it's not about him. Now about you. What do you feel? Sarah lifted her eyes to him. Tears stood in them, for the first time since they'd met. I feel relief, she said in surprise. Strange, isn't it? I should be sobbing, but I feel lighter. Like a weight off my soul. That's normal, Alex nodded. You lived with a lie for 10 years. Now the lie has crumbled. It hurts, but it's honest. What should I do? Wait. The police will find him or they won't. But you need to find yourself. That's Sarah, who was an architect, who knew how to enjoy life. She's in there somewhere, deep inside you. Sarah looked at him, and a new light kindled in her eyes. You think I can? I know, Alex said. The question isn't if you can. The question is if you want to. Part 4. Police visit the next morning. Alex was woken by a knock at the door. He opened it, throwing on a robe, and saw two men in strict suits on the threshold. Police. It showed in their posture, their gazes, that particular way of carrying themselves unique to those who wear a badge. Mr. Dobrodrug? Asked the senior one, showing his ID. Detective Morrison, Missing Persons Unit. My colleague, Detective Banks. Can we talk? Coffee? Alex offered, letting them into the room. I have excellent, freshly brewed. We won't refuse, Morrison said, surprised. Usually witnesses get nervous, but this one offers coffee. 5 minutes later, they sat in the living room, and Alex poured the drink into cups, trying to look as relaxed as possible. To what do I owe this? He asked when the ceremony was over. You're acquainted with Sarah Morgan? Banks asked directly, young, with a short haircut and a sharp gaze. I am. We've talked the last few days. She's in a tough spot. I tried to help as a psychologist. You're a psychologist? Morrison raised an eyebrow. Yes. Practicing. On vacation now, but professional habits die hard. Alex smiled. When you see someone in trouble, you want to help. And how much did you help her? Banks asked with mild skepticism. I listened. That's help already, believe me. People need to talk it out. Morrison nodded, accepting the explanation. You were in the lobby yesterday when Amanda Parker arrived? And then her husband? I was. Quite a spectacle. What can you say about that situation? Alex pondered. Giving statements was always a risk, especially for someone with his specific lifestyle. But now he was clean, absolutely clean, no legends, no masks. Just a psychologist accidentally drawn into someone else's drama. Amanda is the missing man's mistress, he said. Or was. She was clearly nervous, clearly knew something but wasn't saying. Her husband, Richard, provided her an alibi for the days after the disappearance. Have you checked that? We have, Morrison nodded. They were indeed together on a getaway. Cameras, witnesses, it all checks out. Then she was probably just trying to insert herself into the investigation to stay informed. Control the situation. Women in her position often do that. Her position? Banks echoed. Mistress of a missing man, afraid his wife will learn the truth, Alex explained. Only the truth has already surfaced, so her motives have changed. Now she's likely afraid she'll be suspected. And you don't think she could be involved? Morrison asked bluntly. Alex hesitated. I think if she were involved, she'd be lying low and praying not to be found. Instead, she showed up, made a scene, drew attention. That's not guilty behavior. That's a woman who wants to be center stage and control things. The detectives exchanged glances. What about Mrs. Morgan? Banks asked. You've talked to her more closely than anyone. What's your impression? She doesn't know where her husband is, Alex said firmly. And she's not involved in his disappearance. She's confused, scared, blames herself for wanting a divorce, and has no idea what's going on. The only thing she's guilty of is trusting someone who didn't deserve it too much. You're that sure? Morrison narrowed his eyes. I'm a psychologist, detective. I see lies. Mrs. Morgan isn't lying. She's suffering. Those are different things. Morrison sipped his coffee and looked at Alex thoughtfully. You know, Mr. Dobrodrug, you strike me as someone who knows more than he says. Professional or personal? Both, Alex answered honestly. But if I knew something that would help find Daniel Morgan, I'd say it. I don't need secrets, I need this woman to stop suffering. And you're not partial to her? Banks asked with a hint. I regard her as a patient, Alex replied evenly. And as a person in a tough situation. Nothing more. Good, Morrison stood. Thanks for the coffee and the candor. If you remember or learn anything, call. He handed a card. Alex took it, nodded. Good luck with the investigation. I hope he's found alive. We hope so too, Morrison sighed. But between us, chances are slim. Very slim. After they left, Alex sat on the balcony for a long time, gazing at the ocean. The situation was getting more tangled. Husband missing. Wife in despair. Mistress married to another and sleeping with the missing man. Mistress's husband knew and tolerated it. Some soap opera, not a detective story. But the key was hidden here somewhere. Alex felt it in his gut. All these people were hiding something, and their secrets were linked by invisible threads. He pulled out a notebook and began sketching a diagram. Daniel Morgan, at the center. Around him. Wife Sarah, Mistress Amanda, Mistress's husband Reed. Each with their own interest. Sarah wants the truth and perhaps freedom. Amanda wants to control the situation and maybe save her reputation. Reed wants his wife back and perhaps to cover tracks. Cover tracks. Alex paused. What if Reed Parker wasn't just a tolerant husband? What if he had motive to get rid of Daniel? Jealousy, for example. Or business. Or something else. Amanda gave him an alibi, 3 days on a getaway together. But Daniel disappeared 8 days ago. 3 days cover only part of the time. What about the other 5? Alex dialed Jessica. Jessica? It's Alex. Could you help me with one legal formality? Depends on which, she replied cautiously. I need info on Reed Parker. What he does, who he's connected to, any ties to the circles where Daniel owed money. You think it's him? I think you won't know until you check. And the police seem satisfied with the 3-day alibi and aren't digging deeper. Fine, Jessica said after a pause. I have contacts in credit bureaus. I'll try to run it. But if I'm caught? You won't be. I believe in you. 3 hours later, the phone rang. Alex, Jessica's voice was excited. I found something. Reed Parker is Daniel Morgan's silent business partner. Unofficial. They co-own the chain of car dealerships, but Parker's not listed officially. And guess what? They had major tax issues. Huge. And someone had to take the fall. Daniel? Most likely. If the IRS dug in, Parker could lose everything. Daniel was the perfect scapegoat. Especially since he was planning to divorce his wife and leave the business. Alex whistled. So Parker had motive. And a 3-day alibi from his wife, who was sleeping with his partner and maybe knew the plans. Exactly. Jessica paused. What do we do? Go to the police, Alex said decisively, but not empty-handed. We need more. Part 5. Night conversation and morning revelation. That same evening, Alex sat in the bar with Sarah. She looked better than in the first days, dry eyes, straight posture, firm notes in her voice. I've decided, she said, looking him straight in the eyes. Whatever happens, I won't go back to my old life. Even if Robert is found alive, I'll file for divorce. I can't be a decoration anymore. That's the right decision, Alex nodded. Just don't rush. Give yourself time. I have plenty of time now, Sarah said with a bitter smile. A whole life ahead, and no idea how to fill it. Architecture, Alex reminded her. You loved it. I did, Sarah agreed. But I haven't worked in 10 years. I probably don't know how anymore. You'll learn again. It's like riding a bike, you don't forget. She looked at him gratefully. Thank you, Alex. You have no idea how much you've done for me. Just by being there and not pushing advice. That's my job, he smiled. But I think it's more than a job. Sarah hesitated. Your own eyes are sad. You help others, but haven't healed yourself. Alex flinched. It was unexpectedly accurate. Possibly, he said after a pause. But that's another story. Will you tell it someday? Someday, for sure. They sat and drank wine, gazing at the night ocean. And in that silence was something healing, for both. The next morning, Alex was woken by a phone call. Mr. Dobrodrug? The voice was official, police. Detective Morrison. We've found Daniel Morgan. Alex sat up in bed. Alive? Alive. There was something strange in the detective's voice, a mix of relief and disappointment. He's in Las Vegas. Lost all the money in a casino, afraid to return, hiding with some acquaintances. We detained him this morning. My God, Alex breathed. And Sarah? We've already informed Mrs. Morgan. She reacted uniquely. How? She said. Tell him I'm hiring the best divorce lawyer, and hung up. Alex laughed, for the first time in many days, sincerely, from the heart. Thank you, detective. You've lifted a huge weight off my shoulders. That's our job, Morrison snorted. By the way, about Parker. You were right. He did have issues with Daniel. But he's not involved in the disappearance, we checked all his movements. Ironclad alibi. And Amanda? Amanda Parker filed for divorce yesterday. Says she's tired of lying. So your therapy seems to have worked on everyone. I'm not involved, Alex said modestly. People sometimes find the right decisions themselves. Yeah, Morrison chuckled. Detective Banks wants psychology lessons from you. Says you figured out the situation in a couple days better than we did in a week. Tell him psychology is just the art of listening. The rest is details. He hung up and leaned back on the pillow. Alive. Daniel Morgan is alive. Just a coward who lost money and was afraid to confess. All this time Sarah suffered, blamed herself, feared the worst, and he was just gambling in a casino. Cruel, but on the other hand, now she has the perfect reason to leave. And judging by her reaction, she'll use it. Alex smiled and went to breakfast. Part 6. Farewell. They met in the hotel lobby 2 hours later. Sarah was dressed in a light white dress, her hair loose, a faint smile on her lips. She looked 10 years younger than on the day they first met. Leaving? Alex asked, seeing the suitcase beside her. Yes. Time to go home. So much to do there. She hesitated. The lawyer's already preparing the papers. I want this over quickly. Will he fight it? Let him try. Steel notes appeared in her voice. I have character now. You awakened it in me. I only helped you find it, Alex corrected. It was always there. Sarah stepped closer and took his hand. Thank you, Alex. For everything. For listening. For not giving advice when I wanted it. For being there. That's my job, he repeated, but this time it sounded unconvincing even to him. No, Sarah said. It's more than a job. I told you, your eyes are sad. You save others, but haven't saved yourself. Find someone who will save you, Alex. You deserve it. She kissed him on the cheek and headed to the exit. At the door, she turned, smiled, and waved. Alex watched her go and thought she was right. He saves others, but himself. He doesn't even know what he wants. Money, yes. Freedom, yes. But meaning, no. Maybe it's time to change something. He returned to his room, pulled out his laptop, and opened the encrypted diary. Entry in electronic diary, notes of a manipulator. Entry No. 2. Operation Rescuer, though there was no operation. The third story happened to me when I least expected it. I wasn't looking for a client. I wasn't building a legend. I was just relaxing. And suddenly, a woman with eyes full of pain, and a husband who disappeared. I didn't plan to get involved, but when you see someone on the edge, it's hard to walk by. Especially if that person isn't a bitch, not a toxic aggressor, but just a victim of circumstances who lost herself. Client: Sarah M., 36, former architect, now professional wife of a rich husband. Diagnosis: loss of identity, imposter syndrome, suppressed aggression, fear of loneliness. Plus a scoundrel husband who vanished at the worst moment. Method: 0 manipulations. For the first time in ages, I was just myself. A psychologist who listens. A person who doesn't judge, who's there. I didn't try to change her, didn't build clever schemes, didn't use any techniques. I just was. And it worked. She found herself on her own. Without my hints, without role-playing, without provocations. Simply because someone gave her space to be herself. Climax: appearance of Mistress Amanda and her husband Reed. This triangle exposed all the lies the marriage was built on. She saw the truth, and didn't fall apart. On the contrary, she pulled herself together. Finale: husband found. Alive, healthy, lost money in a casino. Coward, not villain. Sarah met the news not with tears, but icy calm and a decision to file for divorce. She saved herself. I just held the mirror. Fee: 0, but she gave me something valuable, a mirror in return. Your eyes are sad. You save others, but haven't saved yourself. Main lesson of this operation: sometimes the best help is not to interfere. Sometimes people just need to be heard. And sometimes those you save rescue you, at least with a hint at what you've long lost. Postscript: she left to start a new life. As an architect. Without husband, without money, almost, but with her true self. I think she'll make it. And I'm left with a question. What next? I'm still on vacation. And I still don't know what I want. But now at least I know what I don't want, to be an eternal rescuer who can't rescue himself. Time to change something. But what, unclear yet. Alex closed the laptop and stepped onto the balcony. The ocean roared below, palms rustled, light music played somewhere. Life went on. He pulled out his phone and dialed Jessica. Jessica? It's Alex. You still at the hotel? Until tomorrow, she replied. What is it? Want to have dinner tonight? No investigations, no secrets. Just dinner. Is this how you start courting? She smirked. No, just. I think we both could use a normal conversation with a normal person. You've divorced 3 times, and I don't know what I want from life. Perfect time to talk about it over good wine. Jessica paused, then laughed. You know, Alex, you're strange. But nice. 7 o'clock, at the restaurant. Don't be late. I'll be on time, he promised. He set the phone aside and looked at the sunset. The orange sun slowly sank into the ocean, painting the sky in hundreds of shades. Find someone who will save you, Sarah had said. Maybe there's sense in that. Maybe it's time to stop being just a rescuer and let someone rescue him. But that's another story.